Alright everyone, welcome back to the 9th video in our video series of creating Node.js apps from beginning to end. In this video, we're going to be looking at the database layer of our Node.js applications, and for our database, we are going to be using MongoDB. MongoDB is a database that uses NoSQL or not only SQL syntax, which means we don't have to use typical SQL language in order to query the database. We can use a more familiar syntax that Mongo provides. Also, we, for the most part, will not be using the standard Mongo syntax. We will be using a driver that interacts between our MongoDB database and our Node.js application. That driver will be Mongoose. We'll get into that later. For now, let's talk about getting MongoDB set up. So there's two ways of setting up MongoDB. If we go ahead and head over to their website and we click on download here, it immediately takes you to MongoDB Atlas, which is a database as a service. So this is a hosted version of your database using MongoDB. Now they do offer a free cluster, a free trial version that you can use. It is a little more tricky, in my opinion, to set this up and differs from user to user depending on how you set up your cluster. And I think it'll be easier if we just go ahead and go to community server and you select your particular operating system and then download it from there. Now every operating system offers their own download and instructions for downloading with different tools. And I am on a Mac, so I am going to go ahead and go to the Mac operating system tab, and I can either download this or I can use Homebrew, which is going to be much easier for most people. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to click on those instructions there, and I can go ahead and read all about this. Now we're going to go down to here, install MongoDB Community Edition with Homebrew. First thing we have to do is open up our terminal and go ahead and type in the commands brew update. This is going to update your Homebrew with everything. I'm already up to date, so I can go ahead and use it. Now, if you don't have Homebrew, this command won't work. And what you need to do is go ahead to this link right here and copy this very simple script that's just going to install Homebrew for you. So you just copy that, paste it into your command line there, and go ahead and run it. I'm not going to do that because I already have Homebrew installed, so I just needed to run brew update. Now, either way, once you get brew update ran or you install Homebrew for the first time, it'll automatically be updated. If you just want to be safe, you can go ahead and run brew update still. But once you have that, we're going to go ahead and use Homebrew to install MongoDB. So just run brew install MongoDB. Now there's two ways you can do this. Install MongoDB or install MongoDB with this development flag. If you do that, you're going to get the latest bleeding edge version of MongoDB, but remember, it's not going to be as stable as the stable release version. So I would recommend going ahead and using this command here. Once you have that, go ahead and hit enter to run it, and it's going to download MongoDB onto your computer for you. I'm going to let that go ahead and run. Alright, now that that has finished up, it's going to do a little bit more configuration and it's going to give you some instructions. So, to have MongoDB launched at startup, whenever you start your computer, you can go ahead and run this command. I wouldn't recommend that unless you're going to be using that pretty much all the time. It's not very difficult to just go ahead and start it up whenever you need to. So I'm going to go ahead and run this configuration file that Homebrew has set up for us. And that's going to do some stuff like setting up a place for MongoDB to store and access its documents that it stores in the database for us. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this whole command here and paste it and run it. Now that's ran, you can check that it essentially worked by going to your home, not your home directory, but your computer's directory, going to the data directory and making sure you have a data folder or a DB folder, which I don't. So I'll show you what happens when you go ahead and try to run your MongoDB without that DB folder. So in order to run MongoDB, you just go mongod or mongodb, however you want to say that, and just run it. Now you'll see here, if I expand that it tried to access data directory data /db and it wasn't found. So we have to create that. So let's go ahead, create new folder, call it db, and now you'll see that when Mongo looks for data /db, it's going to find it in data, and it's going to find the DB folder for it to go ahead and creating its databases. So we can X out of that now, and let's try running it again. And now you'll see that it runs all this, and now it says waiting for connections on port 27017, which is going to be the default port. So how do we actually start using and adding things to our databases? Well, there's a nice tool that Mongo puts out themselves, and it is called Compass. You can find it in this tab in the same page that we found our download for MongoDB. You'll find the Compass, and you can go ahead and download that, and that'll download, and then you just install it. So once, I'm actually going to cancel that because I don't need it. But once you have it, you can go ahead and run it, and we will connect to our MongoDB server. So remember, we're running MongoDB from our terminal. We went ahead and issued the mongod command, and it ran a MongoDB server on our computer on port 27017. Now, we are using Compass, which is a tool that can access our database servers, and it's automatically going to be pre-filled with localhost, the correct port, and everything else filled out. So we just have to hit connect, and it'll connect and show us these default databases that are set up. These we're not going to mess with. They're just default databases. We're going to create our own database in order to start using MongoDB. So click on Create Database, and now go ahead and name it something. I will call my database Test, and now in your database, you can have different collections of data. So I'm going to have a collection of, say, users, and I'm going to create that database. So now you'll see I have the database named Test, and I have a collection in here named Users. Now if I go to Users, I can insert what's known as documents. So I'm going to go ahead and insert a document, and since this is my Users collection, I'm going to create a user with first name, and I'm just going to say Johnny. And now I'm going to also add the last name, Stevens. And now once I have that put in, I can just hit insert, and there you go. You see we have our first document saved into our collection known as users in our database known as test. So that's MongoDB. That's how easy it is to use. This Compass tool is going to be very handy, so go ahead and keep that around, and we're going to use it to look at our database from time to time and to perhaps add default documents for viewing in our app. So in this lesson, we showed you how to download and set up your MongoDB. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave a comment and I'll try to help you out. Very often the best resource for you is going to be these instructions that they have on Linux or Mac or Windows. They have very detailed instructions with all sorts of errors you might run into or problems you might run into that can go ahead and solve it for you. So go ahead and take a look at this if you need to, but once you have it installed and then you get Compass set up and then you're able to create your database and a collection in that database, and then you're able to add a document to that collection, you're good to go. And we're going to, in the next lesson, move away from straight MongoDB and get back into NodeJS. From there, we're going to be interacting with MongoDB through the Mongoose driver module that we're going to get from NPM. So I'm excited to show you guys that and start using MongoDB with our applications. See you there.